Hello, this is Deborah Hurst, and I want to welcome everyone to the Healthios webinar series, this one entitled Does Size Matter? In other words, do strategic buyers prefer to acquire pre-revenue or cash flow positive companies? As I mentioned, my name is Deborah Hurst. I'm Vice President of Marketing for the HealthiosXchange, and I'm pleased to introduce to you our two guest speakers who are John Meduri, Global Director, Business Development, for Becton Dickinson Diagnostic Systems, and Bob Murtfeldt, who's Senior Director, Business Development for Johnson & Johnson, with business development responsibilities for the LifeScan business. So just some housekeeping here. First of all, the HX, you're on here, so you must know who we are. We're dedicated exclusively to the global healthcare industry by employing crowdfunding as a cornerstone of what we call a new funding paradigm. And the HealthiosXchange offers direct access to the broadest opportunities on a fee-free, carry-free basis. And we call it the most trusted online environment, SEC FINRA compliant. Since August 2nd, over 1,500 members have joined the HealthiosXchange, I'm pleased to announce, including emerging growth company executives, accredited investors, investment professionals, and strategic buyers. So we'll start. Just to give you an idea, John Meduri and Bob Murtfeldt, we're going to introduce them at the top of our webinar, where they'll take you through Becton Dickinson Diagnostics and Johnson & Johnson LifeScan. We'll briefly go over the HealthiosXchange's mission, give you a better idea of what it's about, and our crowdfunding portal. I just want to share this quote with you. As companies reach maturity, strategic buyers assert themselves as 87% of investment returns in healthcare are generated through M&A transactions, 87%, which explains why the strategic buyers are so important to your exit strategy. So at this point, I will turn it over to John Meduri and Bob Murtfeldt, starting with John to take you through the strategies at Becton Dickinson, with Bob Murtfeldt chiming in. Hello, John.
Hello, Deborah. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate this opportunity. And first, just a few introductory remarks about BD. If you go to the next slide, Deborah. As you can see on this initial slide, for those of you who don't know, BD was founded in 1897, and we're headquartered in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. We're a Fortune 500 company with locations in more than 50 countries and nearly 30,000 associates worldwide. And BD serves healthcare institutions, life science researchers, clinical laboratories, and the general public, and sells a broad range of medical supplies and services, as well as devices, lab equipment, and diagnostic products. And many of you know that BD's purpose is helping all people lead healthy lives. On the next slide, it depicts BD's current locations, with notable market presence in both industrialized and emerging markets. And Deborah, the next slide highlights BD's fiscal year 13 revenues by our three business segments. The first segment, BD Medical, with sales of $4.3 billion, is among the world's leading suppliers of medical devices and a leading innovator in injection and infusion-based drug delivery since 1906. Next, BD Diagnostics, with sales of $2.6 billion, is a leading provider of products for the safe collection and transport of patient specimens, as well as instruments and reagent systems to accurately detect a broad range of infectious diseases, healthcare-associated infections, and cancers. And finally, BD Biosciences, with fiscal year 13 sales of $1.1 billion, is a world leader in bringing innovative diagnostic and research tools to life science researchers, clinical researchers, lab professionals, and clinicians, and is focused on continually advancing the science and applications associated with cellular analysis. Then, Deborah, the subsequent slide highlights BD's strategy to apply technology and clinical knowledge to make healthcare more effective, efficient, and safe, and highlights our 5 areas of focus, which you can see, and they're all aimed at driving revenue growth through investment and innovation, which leads me to the discussion topic at hand, does size matter? Let me start by saying that BD has a strong track record of enabling strategic acquisitions that align with its capabilities and create shareholder value. And these opportunities complement organic growth through bolt-on acquisitions, And BD has become very proficient at these types of acquisitions that fit well with its business objectives and rapidly drive business growth. And BD is very pleased with the progress of these types of deals that have been annualized into its base. You know, and recent examples include the acquisition of Carmel Pharma into the Medical Surgical Systems unit, Keystra into the Diagnostic Systems unit, and Acuri Cytometers and Sirigen into the Biosciences segment. Further, for the past several years, two key overarching priorities for the company have been accelerating growth through innovation and becoming a more customer-centric organization. For example, Deborah, on the next slide, it highlights BD's Corporate Strategic Innovation Group, which has significantly increased its portfolio investment in initiatives outside the home court. And this innovation group works closely with its business units and the BD Technology Center Innovation Councils, together which efficiently and effectively select investments and enable open innovation, collaboration, and development with a wide variety of entities, you know, examples of which are depicted on the left-hand side of this slide. And together, they ultimately commercialize novel, needed, and valued solutions. So, although certainly size does matter from a risk profile, medico-economic modeling, and valuation perspective, many of the same critical diligence requirements and assessment tools are leveraged when assessing these opportunities, including, you know, innovation portfolio and technology risk assessments, real win worth analyses, voice of customer and market assessment activities, intellectual property and freedom to operate analyses, regulatory requirements, operational sales, marketing, and channel investment hurdles. So in the end, you know, BD seeks to both solve medical technology problems in its given business space and apply technology and clinical knowledge to make healthcare more effective, efficient, and safe. So thank you for that, allowing me to give that introduction.
What is the process within a corporate organization? Who ultimately decides on acquiring or partnering with the company? How far up the flagpole do you have to go?
Well, that's a great question, Deborah. You know, typically for acquisitions, we do go through what we call the corporate development steering team, who ultimately reports into, you know, our CEO as well as the board of directors for any significant, you know, partnership, strategic partnership and acquisition opportunities. So we have a very formal process that we follow in order to enable these significant transactions, typically through the business units, the business segments, as well as through our innovation council. And it's well outlined, and we've become very proficient at enabling this transaction.
Okay, thank you so much. Also, as a public company, certainly you are indebted to your stockholders and mindful of them. How much do the stockholder interests influence these decisions?
Well, typically, you know, we're very mindful of stockholders' interests and certainly align them with those of the company and the board. So, you know, in the end, we make the right decisions in order to drive our strategy.
Gotcha. To our question, you know, the obvious one is there's more risk, cost less for a pre-revenue company versus the later stage company, which is EBITDA positive. It commands higher costs for partnering and acquisition. Is there a bias one way or the other at Becton Dickinson?
Well, I think historically you can see we've had more of the bolt-on acquisition types where it's, you know, certainly cash flow positive, where there is less risk. But we're you know, becoming more and more of an innovative and customer-centric organization, as I mentioned. So, you know, we are looking at opportunities where we can partner with firms and teaching institutions and the like that can enable, you know, innovation through incubation activities, where we perhaps take you know, options and equity interests and help to better understand, you know, spaces where we may not be as familiar, but certainly we can help to innovate and then ultimately provide optimal, you know, patient care solutions worldwide.
Are there any areas within Becton Dickinson where you're looking for more growth? So you lined up the biosciences, diabetes, diagnostics, any area in which some of our listeners may be in those therapeutic areas that you're particularly interested in?
Oh, there are a number on our target list, and those include everything from healthcare informatics to to emerging diagnostic spaces, for example, next generation sequencing technologies and the like that we think can make a real difference in both applied research and clinical diagnostics in the future.
Okay, that's great. Now, I think, Bob Murtfeldt, there was a little technical issue. Bob, are you on the phone now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So glad you're there. Maybe you could take us through the thinking at Johnson & Johnson.
Sure. So we have three primary businesses at Johnson & Johnson: a consumer business, a pharmaceutical business, and a medical devices and diagnostics business. And today, LifeScan falls under the consumer business because most of our sales are to retail outlets throughout the world, and they kind of fall under a consumer focus. We look at both opportunities that are near-term to market or already on the market. And I would say through the years, Johnson & Johnson has acquired over 250 companies, and so it's very common for us to look at more mature businesses and to complete mergers and acquisitions to bring new products and innovation in-house. That said, we also do reach out and invest in earlier stage companies through Johnson & Johnson Development Corporation, which is our equity arm, and operating companies such as LifeScan will also invest directly in companies that have a good strategic fit with our business.
Okay, thank you so much. What is the best way for a company to approach you? Let's say they fit these criteria and they do want to package themselves. I know you get calls all the time. What is the best way for a company to approach you, Bob?
I think the best way, they certainly can approach our business development folks within each operating company. So in the case of LifeScan or Animas or Calibra Medical, that would be my group, and they're welcome to provide business plans or approaches, and we'd be happy to sit down and talk with them. Very often we get inquiries for areas outside of diabetes care, and we work pretty closely with our business development colleagues throughout Johnson & Johnson to make sure that calls of interest or potential opportunities get put in the right place so that they can be assessed accurately. And we also, share in some of the assessments with our colleagues. So we'll have, very often we'll have several operating companies that may have an interest in a new opportunity to get involved in an assessment.
And one thing I asked John, obviously you're mindful of the shareholders and the stock price. How important is it as you make these decisions, how mindful are you of the shareholders as you do decide about which companies to acquire and to partner with or license?
Well, depending upon the size of the opportunity, I mean, a large acquisition like the Synthes acquisition we just did, it was over $20 billion. Obviously had, executive board approval in order to go ahead with a deal like that. And so shareholders become, the input through the board is very important for the large deals that we do. I would say in small deals within individual operating companies that may not have a material impact on Johnson & Johnson as a whole, may not elevate to an executive committee approval or board of director approval. So it really depends upon the size of the deal and the nature of the deal in order to look at shareholder input or not.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I'm just going to take you. We're going to do a little summary of the HealthiosXchange, and at the end, we will have the email addresses for both John and Bob. And just to take you through a summary of the HealthiosXchange, you're in this webinar because you've joined the exchange. We want to thank you and welcome you to it. And just to reiterate, it's all about the ability for accredited investors to invest directly into an emerging growth company. And the big disruptive element of it is it's done on a no-fee, no-carry basis. So this ability to invest directly in more than 5,000 companies focused exclusively in healthcare is really compelling. The other part of it is seed to exit. Oftentimes, investors will look at later stage companies. But for the earlier stage, what do? These could be the most promising therapeutics to help advance treatment outcomes. So we're very intent in seeing those companies move from seed to exit. We call it no orphan companies. You saw a slide earlier saying no companies left behind. That's from it. On the average, as you can see, companies will attract about $49 million investment over 5.7 years. So you want to be part of that. How do you attract the capital sources? And we also realized as an investment bank that Healthios is, we need to look at alternative funding sources, the alternative capital sources, which is why we started the HealthiosXchange to attract the family offices, sovereign funds, these institutional investors, and accredited investors like angels who are very interested also in investing in healthcare companies. So as you can see, we're building a database of 100,000 accredited investors worldwide. We're going to be launching our reserve system over the next 2 weeks, which means it'll allow the investors to invest directly at the directly into the companies. And we see this as accelerating access to capital, broaden the exit and liquidity alternatives. I know you can read this as well, but it's all about enhancing capital efficiency and ultimately liquidity, the road to liquidity. So we also think, here we go, hang on. And then the crowdfunding portals. These are our 4, if you come onto it, we actually have 4 portals within the HealthiosXchange. Crowd Finance, Foundation, Place, Express, and In-Market. Crowd Finance allows the accredited investors to invest directly into companies. Express are for the VC, institutionally backed companies looking for an exit over the next 12 to 18 months. And In-Market is where we harness the power of the public markets. This is more for the small caps. And at this moment, I know we have about 10 minutes left. What I'd love to ask Bob and John, do you think these crowdfunding portals will help fill the innovation gap, not only for the strategics, but also for the investors?
Well, Deb, let me just say that, certainly I value the HealthiosXchange, the portal, since becoming, a member and you and the team introducing it to me. I've had a lot of interaction with, with the emerging growth companies based upon their presence on the portal as well as the one-on-one meetings. So that holds tremendous value, and I thank you for that content and that access to these innovative companies. Certainly we have an active search process within BD to align with our innovation goals and themes, but this further complements what we're doing. So I hope that addresses your good question.
Yeah. Bob, what about you in the diabetes space?
Yeah, I think to echo what John just said, we have kind of a formal search and evaluation process at J&J, and we do capture a lot of strategic investment areas that are of interest to us, and we follow a number of companies, but it's difficult to catch everything. So I think the portal you have is a great source for helping us augment information that we already have, but also we do discover a company or two from time to time, especially newly formed companies that we may not have been aware of. So it's a great source. I think the crowdfunding opportunity these days is very interesting and something that we have an increased interest in following.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. And this is just a quick snapshot of for illustrative purposes only, of what a page would look like. For any of those who are on this call who are in the system, who have listed your companies, to the best of your ability, please amp it up, add as much as you can, your non-confidential documents, any board members, any management members from your management team, the more information you provide, the more capital sources it will attract. And if it's attracting a lot of capital sources, these are the companies we will highlight in our monthly newsletter. So it just helps you all around the more you can add to it. And anyone joining the portal will have an opportunity. You can see there's a question and answer right here. They can actually friend you, have confidential conversations with you online, and also initiate a Q&A. Well, I definitely want to thank John Meduri and Bob Murtfeldt, very busy gentlemen in their positions at Becton Dickinson and Johnson & Johnson, for sharing 30 minutes of valuable time with us. And also for you, the participants, the attendees, thank you for joining us as well. And we look forward to your joining our other webinars and for a very dynamic engagement on the HX portal. And feel free to send any of us any questions or call me with any comments. You have the information right there. So thanks again, all, and Bob and John, thanks again, and happy holidays to all. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Okay.